What percentage of trauma victims experience long-term effects of post-traumatic stress disorder or go to use drugs?
There are two types of experiences which may be traumatic for an individual. There's one type of traumatic experience which is dysfunctional to the person's life, for example, divorce or failing an exam or being fired from a job. That is traumatic to an individual. But there's a different type of trauma where a person's life is in danger. For example, a terror attack, a car accident, involved in a bank robbery, earthquake, a tsunami. Where a person is involved in a potential life-threatening situation, they are at risk for a very unique cluster of symptomatology, which we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, that is very different to the trauma of going through divorce or being fired from a job, etc. If a person is exposed to a trauma where their life is in danger, only about 15 to 20% of those people develop the syndrome which we know as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is very low, only 15 to 20%. Now, that could be a terror attack or going through the Holocaust or going through an earthquake or tsunami, etc. By the way, unless the person is exposed to, a woman is exposed to sexual trauma, for example, rape, there it's closer to 60 to 80% of them who develop post-traumatic stress disorder, much higher. But having looked at it, let's look at that 15 to 20%. If you take those 15 to 20% of individuals who developed PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, about 60% or 2/3 of those will go on to develop a drug abuse disorder, a substance abuse disorder. 2/3 of those 15 to 20% will develop substance abuse disorder later on. If I now look at all those who have developed substance abuse in the entire population, about 2/3 of those have trauma in the past. So there are two ways to look at that. To look at those who've gone through trauma and to say 2/3 of those develop substance abuse, but also if I look at those who have substance abuse, 2/3 of them have had trauma. So it's actually very different, but the same concept to say that trauma massively increases the risk for substance abuse later on based on those three factors. The fact that it's a self-medication for low mood, based on dealing with that numbing experience and helps a person feel alive again, and also related to the dysregulated biological mechanism where a person is unable to experience reward and use drug to experience reward, which is in a way a similar concept of dealing with that numbness that the person experiences.